Hello everyone, it's Teacher Joel of Your English Mind, and thanks for stopping by class today. In today's class, we are going to talk about memories. Now, memories are things that happen to us in the past. We're going to focus on 4 vocabulary words here. The first word we're going to take a look at is recall. Then the second word we're going to take a look at is regret, then nostalgia, and finally reminisce. And after we finish the vocabulary words, we're going to take a look at 3 expressions related to memories. And those are for old time's sake, a trip down memory lane, and the one that got away. So we've got a lot of work to do today. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, guys, let's take a look at the first vocabulary word related to the theme of memories. So the first word that we're going to look at is the word recall. All right, I want to say that word again, recall. Now, when we use the word recall, we can use it as both a verb and as a noun. But for today's example, we're just going to focus on using it in the verb form because in English, we seldom use recall in the noun form. Now, what does the word recall mean? Well, recall means to bring an old memory or situation back into your mind so you can remember it. Now, when we take a look at the word recall and remember, most of the time, both of these words can be used interchangeably because they essentially have the same meaning. The only difference is that recall, I would say, is more formal than remember. So an example, we could say, I don't recall seeing John at the party last night. Or we could also say, I don't remember seeing John at the party last night. So again, both of these sentences are almost exactly the same. The only difference is we're using 2 different verbs. But again, like I said earlier, recall and remember can pretty much be used interchangeably. Both have the same meaning, okay? So now that we know what the word recall means, let's take a look at a few examples and how could we use the word recall in a sentence. We could say, I don't recall giving Sarah the key to my house. Or we could also say, I don't remember giving Sarah the key to my house. Both are okay in this example as well. Another way we could use the word recall in a sentence, we could say, if I recall things correctly, I was having dinner with Tom last Tuesday evening. So if you're watching a crime show, an American crime show, any crime show, you might hear the police officer say, do you recall what you were doing last Tuesday night? What they're doing is they're asking someone if they remembered what they were doing last Tuesday night. So this is a situation where you might hear the word recall. Okay, guys, let's take a look at our second word related to memories, which is the word regret. Now, the word regret, much like recall, can be used as both a verb and as a noun. And for this example, I'm going to show you how to use it as both so you can understand and see the difference between the 2 forms. So what does the word regret mean? Well, it means to feel bad about doing something or not doing something in the past and not being able to change it. So to have regret or to regret something is not a good thing because that moment has passed and we cannot change it, okay? So this is a very strong feeling, especially as we get older. So once we get married or possibly have children, start a family, or, just, become older in general, the feeling of regret can be a very, very strong emotion. And some people have a hard time dealing with regret, okay? So let's take a look at how we can use this word as both as a verb and as a noun. I regret not pursuing a career in medicine. So when we look at this sentence here, regret, we're using it in the verb form. So this person, I regret not pursuing a career in medicine. Maybe they're older and maybe they're a lawyer right now. Lawyer is a good job, but maybe their true passion was studying medicine, helping sick people. And when they look back on their life, maybe they're not happy with their job as being a lawyer. They're not fulfilled. They look back and they're like, why didn't I study to become a doctor? I really regret that. It's very difficult to deal with these things. Okay, now the second example, we're going to take a look at regret in the noun form here. John said his biggest regret was not spending more time with his mother before she passed. This is another common regret that a lot of people have when someone close to them passes away, a family member or a friend. It's very common for people to say, I wish I had spent more time with them. So that's why it's important, to live each day to the fullest, do what you want to do while you're young, because, as you get older, everyone's going to have regrets. It's a natural part of life. But, by going out there and doing what you want to do and living your life to the fullest, hopefully you'll have no regrets. All right, guys, you're doing great. Let's take a look at our third word here, which is nostalgia, okay? The word nostalgia is a noun. Now, a moment ago, we talked about the word regret. Regret has a negative or a bad meaning, but when we take a look at the word nostalgia, it actually has a good meaning, because nostalgia is a warm or nice feeling for something that happened in the past, okay? So, as people become older, we have more feelings of nostalgia because life was simpler and more enjoyable. So a lot of people look back on their life when they were a child or a teenager. Life was very simple, very easy. We didn't have a lot of responsibilities. We had a lot of fun with our friends. We look back on the nostalgia of those times, and it, like I said, it creates a nice, warm feeling, okay? Now, there's a few things that can create a sense of nostalgia. Some examples of these might be movies, music, television shows, photos, certain places, and cartoons. So these are just a few examples of things that can create a sense or feeling of nostalgia, okay? Now, we know what nostalgia means, but how can we use this word in a sentence? Well, we've got a few examples here. I took a drive through my old neighborhood last week, and even though it looks different, I still had a feeling of nostalgia. So this is very common. When you grow up in your neighborhood, you have a lot of memories in that place. But as you get older, you move away, you go to university, you get a job, you start your own life. But sometimes it's nice to come back to your old neighborhood and, go around and, to experience and to feel those nice, memories you had as a child of, playing outside, doing fun things with your friends, to create a nice feeling of nostalgia. The movie Forrest Gump uses a lot of nostalgia. So Forrest Gump is a very, very famous American movie. Earlier we talked about how movies and music can create a sense of nostalgia. The movie Forrest Gump definitely uses music in the soundtrack to create a strong sense of nostalgia in that movie? All right, guys, the final word we're going to take a look at today is the word reminisce. Now, reminisce is a verb. Now, what does the word reminisce mean? Well, reminisce means to talk about or think of fun things that happened in the past. So, reminisce is a good word, it's a positive word, okay? Now, when do people reminisce? Well, people like to reminisce at reunions. The word reunion is an event where a lot of people get together where they haven't seen each other for a long time. So, a common example of some reunions might be a high school reunion or a family reunion. Okay? Now, earlier we talked about the word regret. Okay? Regret is when we look back on our life, when we think back about, our past life and we're upset. We're upset with the things that we did or didn't do. But when we talk about the word reminisce, reminisce is a good thing. We think about all of the good things that happened in our life when we were younger. So that's a key difference between these two words, okay? Now, let's take a look at how we can use the word reminisce in a sentence. Every year, we have a family reunion at my aunt's house, and we always reminisce about the past. So earlier, I talked about how people like to reminisce at events such as reunions. So, here, a lot of family members, they get together at their aunt's house and they talk about, fun things that they used to do together as a family. And the final example here, I ran into an old classmate at the market yesterday and we reminisced about old times. Notice here I'm using the word reminisced, which is the simple past form of the verb reminisce, but obviously still the same meaning. And yeah, this is common too. Maybe you bump into an old friend or an old classmate or an old coworker you haven't seen for a long time and you get chatting and you're like, hey, do you remember that one time in class where we did this really silly thing? So again, it's common to, reminisce when you bump into old friends or old colleagues as well and, talk about the fun things that happened in the past. Okay, guys, now that we've taken a look at a couple vocabulary words related to memories, let's now look at a few expressions. Now, the first expression we're going to look at is for old time's sake. What does this expression mean exactly? Well, for old time's sake means to do something in memory of older times that were fun when you were younger. Okay? So as we get older, the things we like start to change. So, for example, I'm 40 years old. The things that I like to do now are very different than the things I like to do when I was a child or when I was a teenager. Okay? But sometimes it's fun to do something you enjoyed doing in the past for old time's sake. So, for example, sometimes I'll play an old game that I used to enjoy when I was a kid, or I'll watch an old cartoon or an old TV show. Earlier in class, we talked about the word nostalgia. This is a perfect example. Doing something for old time's sake helps create a feeling of nostalgia. Okay? So now that we know what this expression means, let's take a look at how we can use this in a sentence. Okay. Why don't we play Monopoly like we did when we were kids for old time's sake? So in this sentence here, someone's suggesting, hey, let's play Monopoly. We used to play this game when we were kids. We had a lot of fun playing it. We haven't played it in a long time. And, we used to have so much fun doing it. So, let's play it for old time's sake. Okay? And the second sentence we've got here, We haven't eaten at Mario's in ages. We used to love that place. Let's eat there for old time's sake. Now, before I explain this sentence, I just want to quickly go over this here, in ages. In ages just means for a very long time or quite a while. So when we look at this example here, someone is suggesting, hey, let's go eat at Mario's. We used to eat there all the time. The food was great. We had a lot of great memories, but we haven't eaten there in a long time. So why don't we go have a meal there, for old time's sake, to remember the good times that we used to have? Okay, the next phrase we're going to look at here is a trip down memory lane. Now, this expression means to talk about, write about, or think about something in the past. Now, earlier in class, we talked about the word reminisce, which is a verb, and it means to think about all of the fun things that you did or that you experienced when you were younger. A trip down memory lane is an expression, obviously, but basically it's the same as reminisce. It just means to think about all the fun things that happened to you when you were younger, okay? Now, this is a fun thing to do with friends and family at events such as reunions. We talked about that earlier in class, okay? Now, what is the difference between a trip down memory lane and for old time's sake? We just talked about that. Well, for old time's sake is something that you experience. It's an action. You actually go and you do that thing. Whereas a trip down memory lane is something that you think, talk, write, or listen about. You're not actually experiencing it. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Both expressions are similar, but there is a difference. Okay, now we know what the expression means. Let's see how we can use it in a sentence here. When people attend their high school reunion, many of them like to take a trip down memory lane. We talked about this earlier in class, okay? Reminisce. I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but it's a good example, okay? When people get together at events like reunions, they like to reminisce or they like to take a trip down memory lane. Again, same meaning, okay? And there is a new book about Michael Jordan. It's a nice trip down memory lane if you were a Jordan fan. So, books, songs, things like that are a nice trip down memory lane. All right, guys, and we're going to close with one final expression. It's a bit of a bummer, a bit of a sad one, but still an expression that is common in the English language. And we're talking about the one that got away. Now, what is the one that got away? What does this expression mean? Well, the one that got away is a person who came into your life when you were younger and had romantic feelings for, but it never worked out. Now, earlier in class, we talked about the word regret. The one that got away is a perfect example of regrets. Okay, so now you're older, you're living your life now, but you think about that one that got away. Like, what could have been if we dated? Maybe we got married. Maybe my life would have been totally different. But unfortunately, you can't have that opportunity now because maybe you moved on or that other person's moved on, and that opportunity doesn't exist anymore. So this expression is a perfect example of regrets. Okay, now some examples of why the one that got away, why that might happen. Well, maybe they moved away, you were too shy, you were not single at the same time, or maybe you were even dated, but you wanted different things at the time. So these are all things that could lead to reasons as to why, someone gets away, okay? Let's see how we can use this expression in a sentence here. John always had feelings for Kelly in college, but he never asked her out. He always felt that she was the one that got away. So in this example here, we're talking about too shy. A guy likes a girl or a girl likes a guy, or, whatever it is. And, someone just too shy. It happens all the time. You got to step up and you got to ask them, if you truly care about them, take that chance. Okay. Even though Jane broke up with Alex, she loved him deeply and she regrets it because he was the one who got away. So, when we look at this example here, maybe this is an example of wanting different things. So, Jane and Alex, they loved each other deeply, but, maybe Alex wanted something, Jane wanted something else, but, it just didn't work out. And those things happen. So, yeah. The one that got away. Shoot your shot.
Hello everyone, it's Teacher Joel of Your English Mind, and I just wanted to say thanks for stopping by class today. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the Your English Mind YouTube channel and click on the notifications bell to make sure that you're getting updates on all the new English videos we are producing. Also, add us on Instagram and Facebook, where we're posting new English content all the time to help you build your English skills. You did an excellent job in today's class, and I'm very proud of you. I hope to see you in class again real soon.